They called it the Flying Fortress. 13 machine guns bristled from every angle. The B-17 was supposed to be untouchable, a steel beast in the sky. In formation, they were a moving fortress wall, stretching from horizon to horizon. There, engines roaring like a storm, they could take incredible punishment. But the Luftwaffe still brought them down by the hundreds. Why? Because every fortress has blind spots. The overlapping fields of fire that looked perfect on paper broke down. In the chaos of real combat, each gunner's view was blocked by the aircraft's own frame. Coordination between stations was rare. Seams opened in the fortress wall, and German pilots knew exactly where to slip through. The powered turrets could only rotate so far. Sometimes, even if a gunner spotted the enemy, his weapon simply couldn't swing into position in time. The top turret, behind the cockpit, couldn't touch fighters swooping in from high rear angles. The Luftwaffe's favorite approach, German training manuals mapped out these weaknesses. Rookie pilots were taught exactly where to hover, how, to line up their cannons, and when to fire. The B-17's greatest strength, its combat box formation, was also a cage. Designed to maximize defensive fire, the staggered three-dimensional box became rigid, predictable, easy for the hunters to read. At the edges of the formation, the guns didn't crossfire as well, as those planes, the ones flying the corners, were living bait. German fighters swarmed them first, and high above, the cold bit deep. At 25,000 feet, the air could hit -10 degrees Celsius. Gunners wore heavy gloves, their fingers numb on the triggers, their sights fogging with frost. The bombers shook with turbulence, optics rattling just as a Messerschmitt streaked in at over 400 miles per hour. A gunner had one. It'd be 2 seconds to spot, track, lead, and fire. That was all. The enemy's plan was ruthless. First flak, black bursts filled the sky, tearing holes in the wings, rattling teeth, breaking formations apart. And then the fighters came, timed waves choreographed like a deadly ballet. Some came screaming head-on, the glass nose of the B-17 lit up in their gun sights. Early models had no nose guns, just an expanse of vulnerable glass. Others came from above, below, or the blind spots no gun could reach, even when the chin turret was added in 1943. Plugging the worst of the frontal gap, the Luftwaffe adapted. They brought bigger cannons, the slow-firing but devastating 30 millimeters. Mark 108s, just 3 hits could blow an engine apart or snap a wing clean off. Crews said it felt like explosions inside the plane, showering the cabin with jagged metal. And if a bomber fell behind even slightly, it was over. Stragglers were the wolves. Prize the main formation pushed on. Escorts stayed with the group. Out there alone, limping home, a B-17 was nothing but prey. The Flying Fortress was a marvel. It was courage and aluminum, the spearhead of daylight bombing. But the sky over Europe was no place for legends. Up there, the enemy had studied every weakness, memorized every approach, and built walls of fire and steel that no machine could truly survive. Thousands never came back, not for lack of bravery, but because they fought in a war where the odds were colder, sharper, and deadlier than any bullet.